How to stop hiring idiots for your home service business. We've all, as business owners, been through it. We've made bad hires, typically held on to them for too long. It costs us a bunch of money, costs us reputation, costs us culture. I talked about in a previous video the 5 biggest mistakes I see home service companies make and what to do about it. I talk about how hiring too fast and firing too slow can create massive seasons of struggle for you. So this video specifically is a deeper dive on how to hire at the right speed. I still think bringing in people quickly for the right opportunities makes sense, but putting them through a rigid, structured hiring process is very important. I still don't mind it being time fast, but I want the process to be followed to make sure that we're weeding people out the right way. So I'm gonna talk about 3 specific parts of the interview process that I think are super important to weed out the weak, or let's say not as qualified candidates, so that you're spending your time with the highest propensity to succeed people and ultimately bringing in the right people to help your company grow. So the first, we're gonna talk about the hurdle. If you're a note taker, this is what you wanna do. Write down the hurdle, the 2-part interview process, and then the test. The hurdle, the interview, the test. So we're talking about the hurdle. Anytime I put out a job posting, whether it's through a site like WiseHire or Indeed or LinkedIn, or even just a Facebook or social media post, I want to create an initial hurdle for candidates to jump through to even get to the interview process. There's 2 things I primarily do. I always ask people to take a personality test. We use one called Intermetrics that we pay for and supply to all of the WinRate clients that work with us as a value add to their coaching agreement. Use a personality test and then some form of, I like using video, but you don't have to. You can just say, send me an answer to, have them answer a question related to the position. So for me, like, I'll use a couple examples. Like, we hired an event director, and it was like, hey, tell me answer the question of what do you love most about managing events? It could be, what do you love most about sales? What do you love most about prospecting? What do you love most about operating equipment? What do you love most about landscaping? Why do you like cutting lawns so much? Like, figure out what the position is, then simply have them take a personality test and have them answer a question of what do you love most about doing this position. That's gonna give you some really, like, the personality test will tell me if they're deeply, like, their values and their personality fits the role, and then the answer to that question tells me how much they actually understand and truly want the role that you're interviewing for. So that's the hurdle. If you don't answer the question and you don't take the personality test, I'm not interviewing you. I'm not wasting time on you if you can't follow basic instructions. So whether that's through a website like WiseHire, Indeed, LinkedIn, or just a local, like, I think it's people underutilize social media for recruiting of employees. Either way, it's take the test, answer the question. Sometimes, like, if I'm posting on social media, I'll say, send an email to this email address with an answer to this question. And when they do that, when I get the email, I'll then send them the personality test link. So, like, you can use the hurdle different ways, but I'm not spending time interviewing you until you've executed the hurdle. Then the interview process. I use a 2-part interview process, I'd say 100% of the time. First is a 10 to 15 minute virtual interview. There's several things I'm looking for in this. The interview itself is an introduction, and then I ask scenario-based questions related to the core values of my company. So tell me about a time that, or what would you do if type questions related to the core values. So, like, WinRate's core values are communicate proactively, operate with a health first mentality, appreciate everyone's time, continually evolve, and have a championship mindset. So, like, I can say, like, hey, tell me about a time that you had an opportunity to evolve. What did you do and how did it go? Tell me about a time that you've been in a position where you didn't communicate proactively. What did you learn from it and how did you adjust? What would you do if you were running late for a meeting? So tell me about a time that, or what would you do if, related to core values. That's part of what I'm looking for in that virtual interview. So think like a Zoom video or Google Meet or whatever you use. The second thing I'm looking for in that is, how did they show up? Are they stationary? Are they organized? Are they taking notes? Do they have questions? How are they dressed? What is their appearance? What is their personal hygiene? How intentional, what's the background look like? Are they driving in the car trying to do this on their phone? What and how intentionally and how did they show up for the interview is probably 70%. I'll end an interview in 3 minutes if they're not prepared and show up like looking like they're interested in the job. Appearances, in my opinion, is a huge part of, does this person take care of themselves? Do they think about professionalism? Do they think about appearance? And like certain positions will be more important than others. Like a guy operating your skid steer compared to a salesperson, appearance may be different. Do they match the role? Like, do they show up in appearance to match the role you're hiring for? So those are the two things I'm looking for in that 10 to 15 minute virtual interview. If they pass that test, or if they pass that round, we're gonna go to an in-person interview. I always like to give them a few minor details to see how much they pay attention. Like, hey, bring a pair of work gloves. Hey, park over here, bring a notebook. Can they follow basic instruction? But that in-person interview is a lot more about their skill sets. What have they done is a part of it. What do they plan to do for me? I am not a big resume guy. I learned about 15 years ago when I was working in corporate America that there are people out there that for a living will write your resume for you. When I realized that that was a thing, or learned about this thing, I said, I can't trust anybody's resume for the rest of my life. But the reality is I'm less worried about their resume and I'm more worried about their future resume. I actually had someone recently talk about part of their interview process is asking somebody to write their future resume. What will their resume look like in the future? Because it helps you realize like how intentional is this person when it comes to what they want to do in their life. But I will ask somebody to interview, what value do you plan to bring my company, is a question I'll ask way more often than tell me about value you brought to someone else's company in the past. I don't really care because people change, people evolve, people progress, people digress. And so I'm going to ask questions related to what value are you planning to bring to my company? How are you going to help this process? How are you going to help me make money? How are you going to help me make a return on investment of your salary? Because I tell everybody this, every employee I have is an investment. They are not overhead expenses. They're investments. My job is to pay you an amount of money that gets me a return on investment. So how are you going to help me get that return? Because the bigger the return I get on you, the more I can afford to pay you. This is basic math that so few business owners actually talk about. The reality of my ability to compensate you as an employee is related to the amount of return I get on the investment in you. The bigger the return I get on you, the more I can afford to pay you. That's what you want and that's what I want. Let's talk about it in that in-person interview. How do you plan to make me more money than it costs me to have you? Having entrepreneurial spirited employees helps as well. If someone doesn't know and they just think, well, I just want to work for 20 bucks an hour, that person's not going to help you grow. They might help you, and there's a time and place for that type of hire, but that's not a promotable long-term type investment. So if they pass that round, so they've passed the hurdle, they did the virtual interview, they did the in-person interview, I always suggest creating a test to prove that their skill set is what they say it is. If it's a laborer, have them work a day with your crew. If it's a salesperson, bring me a lead. How would you handle this? How would you handle that? Execute this process, execute this task, accomplish this thing, follow this process. Even building a specific test can work, but I like doing a test day. That test day is going to show me how much of what they say about what they can do is actually true. We've all done that. We've hired somebody, they tell all this experience they have, they get to the first job, they don't even know how to turn on the equipment they've been using for 20 years, apparently. There's nothing more frustrating than knowing you got lied to and someone misled you to get a job, because that is just not a great way to start with an employee. So I always suggest a test day. The test day at that point means I'm interested in hiring you. I'm not always going to hire you or not hire you based on the test day, but it'll show me what your strengths and weaknesses are so I can focus on developing this onboarding program to train on your weaknesses and support and capitalize on your strengths. So sometimes that test day just shows me where do we need to focus on your evolution and education. Doesn't always mean I'm going to, if you fail the test, that doesn't mean I'm not going to hire you. If your values were right and you pass the in-person, this test day sometimes just shows me where do I need to develop your skill sets the most. If you execute that process, hurdle, interview, two-part interview, test, you are substantially limiting your ability to hire the idiot. And what I mean by hiring too fast, that process can take 2 days. That process needs to take 3 weeks. But hiring too fast is, oh, I talked to him, he sounds nice, let's have him start next Monday with no official corroboration of their story, no ability to test their skill sets, no ability to put like the money where their mouth is, and can they actually perform the way they say they can. That's too fast. This process doesn't need to take that long. You can knock this whole process out in 2 days if you're intentional with it and fast with it. You can be fast without being quick, but follow the process every single time for every employee, and you'll be amazed at how much faster your company starts to move, because hiring the right people is not just about how fast they help you move immediately. It's about not having to start over every 3, 6, 9 months because you have to fire that person or they quit, because that severely slows down evolution, severely slows down momentum, and sometimes has you repeating the same work over and over again. So the compounding effect of having people who have lasted 2, 3, 5 years with you as opposed to 2, 3, 5 months, it is impossible to quantify and calculate how fast you move as an organization when you have the right people in place for long periods of time. So look, this is not a complicated process, but it can be scary to start. If you've never created like questions, if you've never created a hurdle, if you've never done this, look, I own a company called WinRate Consulting. We coach home service and construction companies through an implementation of these processes. We want to help you build the team of your dreams so that you can build the business and the money and the impact that you want. If you're stuck in like wearing all the hats and you have no time for your family, this is a process that will help get you out of it forever. So click the link below, schedule a call, let's have a conversation, let's see if we can help you implement these strategies so you don't have to hire any more idiots. Get out there, win fast, win often, everybody.